Attack on Titan was a show that I watched when it first came out back in 2013. I can't remember if I watched it in 2013 or 2014, but it was long before season 2 was even announced. And I didn't like it. I thought it was try hard edgy. I thought it was excessively grim dark and depressing for the sake of being depressing, like that it was misery porn. I found the art style kind of not very, I didn't like it. The Titan designs I found very disturbing, and I get that was the point. But just there was so much gore, and it just kind of made me nauseous watching it. And at the time, I really hated the characters. And once stuff started coming out about the lore just sounded really retarded. Like that Bob Marley is their enemy and stuff like that. So I just kind of said the show's not for me, and I shunted it off for 7 or 8 years. And it could very well be the biggest anime of all time. It's probably the biggest anime that's so well reviewed of all time, and that's received such universal acclaim. So here we are in 2021. The series just ended. It's big in the news again, and I just said to myself, I'm gonna give this another try. I'm a lot older now. My tastes have changed. I like to think I'm more mature. So I'll give this show another watch, and I'll see if I was right about it or if it's better the second time through. And I'm happy to say this show was much, much better the second time I watched it. And I do think it's largely deserving as the praise it gets. It's just weird that this show in particular found such a wide audience, given how just extremely graphic and brutal it is. And you know me, I watch horror movies and I review like really gory stuff on this channel. But this is like one of the goriest things I've ever seen. This is like Cannibal Holocaust levels of gore. But I digress. I think the reason I like this a lot more is I just know a lot more about writing. I have kind of a broader appreciation of characters, kind of a better idea, understanding of human psychology, of motivations, of why people act the way they do. So like the character writing in it makes a lot more sense to me than it did previously. I've also read a lot of military history and stuff since then. So that aspect of the show makes a lot more sense to me now than it did previously. Like previously when I watched it, a lot of the time I was just kind of in the dark and going, "Huh?" or "What?" And then now that I'm kind of watching it again and I have a better idea of a lot of things, I can appreciate it a lot more. Also, just my politics have shifted much more rightward. At the time, I was still a pretty hardcore liberal. So that being said, let's talk about the good and the bad because we've kind of already talked about the ugly. So I'd say the good aspects of this show is the character writing is generally speaking pretty good. There's a lot of memorable characters, even a lot of the side characters are pretty interesting. Sasha in particular, I really like, aka Potato Bread Girl. I find her very amusing and she provides a lot of good comic relief. My understanding from what little I've read about the background was she was a lot more minor, but she was such a fan favorite that they gave her an expanded role. Jean or however you pronounce his name is another guy I really like. I think the author said he was his favorite character. And he's maybe a good example of someone that I really hated when I first watched this show. But upon kind of a second watching it and being more mature, I appreciated kind of his complex moral and personal feelings a lot more. Like he just kind of seemed like a greedy dick or a selfish dick the first time I watched it. But now watching it again, I kind of understand his complex and nuanced worldview and motivations. So he's good. You have a lot of just other good side characters. I can't remember all their names off the top of my head. The cool old guy, commander of the Southern Army, the bald guy, I really like. He's just very idiosyncratic and he's just kind of a definition of like the cool old guy trope. I don't really know what else to say. He's really likable. Levi is interesting. I just kind of like how his character is just that he's a stone cold badass, and that's just his character, and I'm okay with that. He really reminds me a lot of Roy Mustang for some reason. I'm not even sure if it because he looks a little like him, but just his voice actor sounds very similar to Roy Mustang and just kind of his persona. Ermin, or however you pronounce it, the leader of the Scouts, is another really kind of likable, interesting character. Songi, I think her name is, the um, science officer of the Scouts, is another kind of good crackpot character. I thought she was related to Sasha for the longest time because they look similar and they both have like kind of crazy over the top personalities, but they aren't related apparently. So she's really good. So my point is there's a lot of good like background characters. Most of whom have kind of complex motivations or personalities and are pretty well written. And a lot of big epic shows like this, it's almost the side characters that kind of carry them. I think to a large extent Naruto wouldn't have been the show it was if you didn't have a lot of side characters people liked. Like Gara wasn't in the show a ton. Shikamaru was in it more, but I don't even know if you could really call him a main character. Hinata wasn't in the show that much. Neji was in the show that much. Rock Lee wasn't in it. But they all had like backstories and they had kind of cool, unique things about them. And I think that was really an important part of the show. Where even if people found Naruto to be kind of autistic and insufferable and annoying, you had all these really good supporting characters that kind of pulled through. And similarly with this, I think it's very much the side characters that kind of prevent the show from stumbling. Now, getting into the main characters, I didn't like really any of them the first time I watched this. Aaron and rewatching it, my opinion on Aaron really hasn't changed. I find him like the Naruto of this show, where he's just kind of retarded, and his main thing is just that he's really, really determined. This is a thing in a lot of, I guess, particularly, is Attack on Titan shonen? I don't really know how. Let me see here. Let me just double check. But in a lot of Japanese stuff, it seems to be your strength is based on your determination. But I just like I just find that he just kind of charges into combat and almost gets himself killed and often gets killed or almost gets killed his comrades because of his retardation. I get that like particularly later on he becomes like this badass like El Duce fascist character or something from what people tell me. But I just find him really obnoxious. And he's whiny, but he's whiny in kind of an unconventional way because he's immensely brave. So he's not really whiny in a cowardly way. So I kind of find him like that. I can't tell if he's like just really autistically obsessed with killing titans like Goblin Slayer is with goblins, and he can't realize that Misaka is in love with him. Although I think they like do some weird retcon about that later on. Like I said, I'm just reviewing this based on the first season. Mikasa, or however you pronounce her name, is a character I didn't really like the first time. I like her a lot more this time. I can appreciate that she's a badass, and that's a majority of her character. Is she's just really, really good at what she does. And I think there is probably a bit more depth to her, but I think out of the main three, she probably is the least complex. She's just kind of marked by her tireless devotion to Eren and being a stone cold badass, which once again I'm fine with. There's nothing wrong with that. Maybe I'm like the one person who has this opinion. I actually like Armin the most by a substantial margin out of the main three characters. I think a lot of people think he's like whiny or cowardly. Maybe it's a bit like with Shinji, where I like Shinji and a lot of people don't. I kind of appreciate that Armin isn't like a suicidal guy like Eren, or a like just natural born badass laugh in the face of fear like Mikasa. He's a lot more of kind of a realistic and normal person who's thrust into this situation. So he has to overcome his doubts and his fears and trauma, and he's naturally a very kind and inherently good person. And the ravages of war, at least in season one, seem to affect him a lot more than the other characters. So I appreciate that in a lot of ways he has a lot more to overcome than most of the other characters in the series, because he doesn't really fundamentally have the temperament to enter into the army. So there's that aspect of it. I also tend to like int-based heroes, or heroes where their strength comes from their ability to outthink and outmaneuver their opponents rather than just from brute strength. I guess some kind of examples of this are Icky from Chivalry of a Failed Knight, who doesn't have magic in the same way other people do, but he has a style that's based on predicting his opponent's attacks and stuff like that. So he has to rely on that. Joseph Joestar was very much about coming up with clever plans on the fly. Not that he wasn't strong, but that was a big part of his style. Goblin Slayer might be the best example of this, where he is a good fighter, but he's very reliant on like gadgets and tricks and quick tactical thinking. And I like that because it's not to say that if you're like just a strong hero and you're based on kind of your strength, but it is always refreshing and kind of enjoyable to have an intelligence based hero who fights that way. And I do like how Armin is almost kind of like the Grand Admiral Thrawn, where he always comes up with these clever plans or he figures the intrigue out. He's a good like sidekick to Aaron. And I like that despite the fact that Aaron has a very dominating and charismatic personality, I don't feel like they really sideline Armin as much as they might in something else. So I don't know. I think a lot of people, from my understanding, don't like Armin because they find him kind of whiny. I like him quite a bit. He's probably my favorite character so far. Talking about the series as a whole, I have mixed feelings about it from a thematic perspective. A lot of people like it because it is extremely fashy. I'd say it actually is fashy, especially from my understanding later on, you have like a fascist coup. And it is very nationalistic and it is kind of based in some ways. From my understanding, though, it seems like Attack on Titan largely exists in a, I don't know if atheistic worldview is, but I can tell from this, I don't think the author really has any kind of religious or metaphysical beliefs. And obviously, I'm not expecting something Christian, but like in Naruto, the Pure Land and the concept of heaven is very important to it. But I get the impression that in Attack on Titan, there's no concept of an afterlife. And I don't know, that's just something that inherently bothers me. I find the idea of sacrificing your life if all you're facing is oblivion a very hard pill to swallow. And and maybe this is just my personal political views, but I don't think you can separate different things. Like I don't think you can separate like militarism and nationalism from having a belief in the divine, even if it's not a Christian perspective like a Buddhist or something like that. And I just find that kind of awkward. You have the like the stupid religion where they're like they worship the walls or something, which is really lame in my opinion, but I just feel there's a spiritual aspect to this that's deeply lacking. And to me that just kind of really brings the show down. I don't know, it's very hard for me to describe. I probably didn't explain it very well. But that's just kind of how I feel about it. And there's almost a certain degree of, I guess, kind of nihilism that stems from this, where people are just kind of throwing their lives away on the pyre. And I guess they're in pursuit of humanity, but it's this like lame secular conception. And maybe it's just because over the years my faith has become such a central part of my life. But I prefer even something like in Naruto, it doesn't bother me because at least there's a concept of the afterlife. It doesn't really, it's not that important if it's like a Buddhist conception or something like that, but it just in this case, I don't know, I really don't like that. It is very try hard edgy. I feel like they just introduce characters to kill them off. And it's this whole like postmodern, oh, nobody's safe, we can't have plot armor. Even though there are a lot of characters who obviously do have plot armor. So they just introduce like these random side characters and make you like them and then kill them off. I don't really like character death, to be honest. I just think it kind of wastes your time. I don't really like, to a limited extent, maybe, but From my understanding, they kill off like the vast majority of the cast as time goes on, and a lot of it seems to be done in rather kind of dumb or like just kind of moronic ways. I mean, once again, I get that this is Total War. There's also this aspect, and this isn't a lot of things, and this is part of why I say it's try hard edge, where like everybody other than the main characters seems to be some kind of like crazy sociopath. And I found this in stuff like Agame to Kill, La Kill, or whatever it was called, where literally every member of the military and every member of the government was a sadistic nut. Blood Sea was also a lot like that, and probably some other animes I just can't remember off the top of my head. But it just makes you like not want them to save humanity. And I get that humanity's deeply flawed, but I just found the show, at least in season one, is just very one sided in its portrayal of the majority of humanity as just like really pathetic creatures. And I get to a certain extent that's true, but there has to be a little bit of balance or it really screws up the stakes. Um, One of the things, and I still am kind of on the fence, we'll have to watch the rest of the show to make this determination. But I don't know if like going to the wider plot was a good idea or not. Like introducing Bob Marley and the Eldian Master Race and this other stuff was really necessary, or if it should have just been a post-apocalyptic show where there wasn't a wider world and they were the last remnant of humanity, and the plot that was kind of imposed upon them was there. I don't know. I don't know about the author's intent and what the writing process is. It does kind of feel to me like um it wasn't initially supposed to have some sort of wider world thing, and that was just something that developed later because the show was so successful and they had to find some way to extend the manga. Once again, I could be completely wrong, but that's just how it feels to me, so you can take or leave it. So I don't know yet. That the extension of it might be good, it might not be good. I'll just kind of have to wait and see. But I think they probably could have very successfully done this as like a 2 or 3 season show, um, and come up with some sort of alternative explanation for the Titans, and just had it be some sort of post-apocalyptic thing without a wider world. I don't know. That's just kind of a thought on my mind. But yeah, I'd say overall it is a really good show. I'd probably go as high as to give it like a 9 out of 10. It was way better than I remembered. I do think it has, I don't know if flaws are the right term, but I do think there are a lot of ways to criticize it. And once again, I'm really surprised because this kind of feels like something niche. This is something like, to me, Dark Souls, or I try to think of something else niche that randomly became super popular. But it just seems really strange to me that this of all anime became like the big one to replace like Naruto or Bleach as like the main shonen huge epic series that people are obsessed with. I don't know, it just seems weird to me. It must have struck a chord somewhere with somebody. I don't know, but good show overall. I'm man enough to admit that I was wrong. It's a bit like with Lord of the Rings, where I probably just read it when I was too young to appreciate it properly. And sometimes it is worth it to go back and give things a second chance. So, once again, I'm trying to be a man about this. I'm trying to admit when I was wrong. So, that's the review of Attack on Titan. I'll do maybe a review when I finish watching season 2. God bless, and I'll talk to you later.